You say you're not a conservative, but you support Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro. I'm sorry, maybe you need to actually look at the definitions of conservative, because you seem to be doing nothing but spouting conservative talking points at this point. If you need to know the type of person you are, sometimes one of the best things you can do is check around the room. Alrighty, I know that the individual that we are going to be talking about today watches my content, so they're going to see, and I'm going to receive another DM after they realize that I just turned them into content. But when you come into my DMs like this, that's what I'm going to do. I just turn you into content. You wasting your time on me is going to be the thing that allows me to go purchase another pizza. That's how it works. But before we do that, let's go ahead and talk about the fan art section. We have a piece here from Lily.Aaron. It said, and for a second piece in as many days, a post-apocalyptic Suris, because I've spent too much time thinking about Warhammer in the last couple of days. Well, I sincerely hope that I am not on any of the factions for Warhammer. They're all fascists. Every one of them. Every one of them. Though, I guess it wouldn't be horrible to be under the Emperor. I mean, it would be terrible, but we're not thinking about it. We're not thinking about it. We're going on to the next one. This one is from M. Moss. They said, I don't know how to draw shadows, but have my iteration of a four-eyed slime Suris with a massive hammer, because hammers are cool. Enjoy. As a paladin player in both WoW and D&D, yes, massive hammers are cool. The next one we have here is from Cienis. They said, okay, trying this again. Suris going super. I like how when my character goes Super Saiyan effectively, the hammer even like an eye opens up on the hammer as if like Sauron is going to be coming out of it with just big dick energy. It's perfect. Oh, it's perfect. Thank you so much for that. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. I greatly appreciate it. Y'all are amazing, and just every single time somebody drops fan art in that section, it just brings so much joy to my heart. But speaking of things that do not bring joy to my heart, let's talk about some DMs. So have you ever had a content creator that you've either really liked or really disliked, and you've wanted to talk with them? Platinum says, I love the Final Fantasy looking box. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I wanted my chat to look like we're in an RPG, so here we are. But have you ever been wanting to talk to a content creator so badly that you added them on Facebook and then dropped into their DMs randomly, bitching about the things that they have said or done? No? Well, let me introduce you to, we'll lovingly call him John. This is the John Doe of our conversation. And we'll look at this exchange, we'll call it, that we had recently.
Bruh, why are you taking calls seriously? You're literally falling his trap.
You're literally failing your English course.
He's fucking with you because you and Hannah Reloaded allowing him to do it. You literally can block him, but you allow him to fuck with you. It is quite entertaining because...
Well, I waited for a because for a very long time, and I never actually got a because. But I did respond, thank you for the input, no face McPherson. I'm sorry, if you come with like any type of advice or anything for me in DMs, and you do it this way where I just like, I have no way to identify you. You don't even have to have a real person's face. I don't fucking care. It can be a pit crew profile. And I'm saying that because I, unlike my editor Cherry, do not wish for pit crew profile pictures to be expunged from the planet. But I don't care. I just need something that lets me have some semblance that you care about this account, that you care about this in some way. Because if you want me to care, then, you know, maybe at least come dressed enough for me to give a shit. So they did respond to me. with
You're a liberal, you commie, you part of the LGBT. The LGBT are all pedophiles. BLM, Black Lives Don't Matter. All lives matter. You're an anti-Christian loving Jews. You support Jews. Jews isn't a race.
wow, buddy, pal, friendo, maybe, just maybe, dial down the anti-Semitism just a bit here. So, first of all, let's look at the contradictions. Am I a liberal or am I a commie? Communists are not capitalists and liberals are not communists. Which one am I, John Doe? Secondly, part of the LGBT. Well, I'm straight. I'm cis. I'm polyamorous. Does that count? I mean, to some people that counts. I'm not. I don't know nor care. Like, maybe, but then the next little bit of contradictions. Black lives don't matter, and then which one is it? Is it that black lives don't matter, or is it that all lives matter? Because it can't be both. It functionally cannot be both. Which one is it, my dude? Also, let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. I think everybody knows by now that if we're talking about BLM, the ideology, not BLM, the organization, then the idea is that Black Lives Matter as well. It is a response to police brutality. The all lives matter argument is fucking bunk and dumb shit. T-jump. And then we have, you're an anti-Christian loving Jews. You support Jews. Jews isn't a race. Whether or not Jews is a race, I don't see how that has any fucking merit here in this fucking conversation. Moreover, why would it be wrong to love Jewish people? Is there an issue with Jewish people that you are purporting? Do you perhaps have a solution you would propose for a problem, nay, a question you have about Jewish people? Would you say that there's a Jewish question? Would you then be looking for a final solution? I don't know. No, this doesn't read like call. It's definitely not call. Call is awkwardly more eloquent than this, but we move on. It doesn't stop there. They then link me my own video on Matt Walsh.
Trans women aren't women. They are disgusting predators wanting to rape women. Why you think they pretend to be women? They want to rape women. Most of them are sexual predators. Drag time story time. Drag queen story time is pedophilia. If you support that, you're a pedophile.
So let's go bit by bit. Trans women are women. Women are people who identify with the feminine side of the bimodal distribution of gendered characteristics that we have socially constructed. Boom. I don't. They're disgusting predators. I would like some evidence to that. Also, why do you think they pretend to be women? It's because they want to rape women. So let me pretend, because I'm cis, but let me pretend for a minute. Does this mean that I, as an adult, if I wanted to be a woman, the real reason I would want to be a woman would be because I would want to be raped? Because that's the logical end result of that statement. That I don't know if you thought that through. I don't know if that occurred to you. Also, most of them are sexual predators. Maybe if you had some evidence of that, that would be helpful. But as you probably don't have any, we'll just continue. Drag queen story time is pedophilia. So if I dress up in a costume and tell stories to children, that's pedophilia. Okay, cool. Then I guess every single mascot at a theme park is a pedophile. Every one of them. They've dressed in extravagant clothing and they're spending time with your child, taking pictures, in some cases telling stories, and in some cases even carrying them on their lap. I guess they are all pedophiles. All of them. Except that doesn't follow through. Somebody who is a pedophile is somebody who actually has an attraction to children. If you want to actually push it further, you could argue that they are somebody who has a proclivity for assaulting them. Whichever way you want to slice that semantic knife, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Also, if you support drag queens, How does that make you a pedophile? If I do not have an attraction to children, which I don't, does that mean that I am still somehow a pedophile? How does that work? If I literally lack every defining trait of a pedophile, how am I now magically one? But let's continue, because it gets worse. I responded to them saying, do you have any evidence that all trans women are predators? I didn't expect to get any evidence. What I didn't expect as well was to be handed an essay.
Matt Walsh isn't wrong. He is right about
Singular.
They are disgusting freaks that don't deserve rights. They are predators in disguised
Past tense.
They are transformers, men in disguise.
Transformers, men that are in disguise. Yeah, that's not how that works.
If you support trans right,
Singular, capitalization.
you need to be registered as a sex offender. I'm not a conservative, but I support Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro.
Continuing on.
Transgenders aren't people. They aren't humans. They are predators that need to be jailed and put on the list. I am not transphobic.
What was that lovely phrase Dumbledore said to the Dursleys in the beginning of the 6th Harry Potter book? The Dursleys said, not to be rude, but... And then as soon as they did so, Dumbledore just responds, but often after saying that, people are often at their most rude. I'm sorry. That's like... Just why? Just why? And then they continue,
there is no such thing as homophobic. It is buzzwords for sheeps.
Bit by bit, we're going to go through one at a time. I have to explain to you, John, all the things you got wrong. Matt Walsh isn't wrong. He's right about trans people. This one's a slur. I know I said it when I was reciting the things that you said, but this is a slur. Maybe don't use it. They are disgusting freaks that don't deserve rights. So... let's say, for example, that there is a trans person who just so happens to have not violated anyone, anything, anyone, in any way, shape, or form. They just identify with the opposite gender. They don't change the way they dress. They don't change the way they comport themselves in society, but they are certainly trans. Do they suddenly just not deserve rights? I mean, they've not done any of the identifying things that you would be so worried about, so where's the line? At what point are they trans enough for the rights to just no longer be deserved from them as a human being? They're predators in disguise. Again, you probably need, A, to learn how to type fucking English, and 2, it would probably be a very good idea for you as an individual to take an exercise in understanding that these are things called thought crimes. These are the type of things where you are arguing that people thinking things, people's identities being something that automatically precludes them to harming other people, harming children, and therefore they need to be thrown into an institution, killed, or jailed. Now, if we extrapolate on this a little further, we also need to talk about the fact that you're saying that they are all men in disguise, except they're not men. Not anymore, anyway. They no longer identify that way. They no longer identify with the masculine, or at least primarily with the masculine side of that gender bimodal distribution. As a result, they are no longer somebody who you could consider a man. I mean, I can find you some very attractive trans women if you desperately need to understand that, yeah, you yourself cannot clock nor identify these people. So how are you going to figure out where the rights stripping away gun needs to be fired? How are you going to do that? I've already talked about the issues with saying that if you support trans rights, you need to be registered as a sex offender. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that statement. Just like I don't agree that supporting Drag Queen Story Hour makes someone a pedophile. You say you're not a conservative, but you support Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro. I'm sorry, maybe you need to actually look at the definitions of conservative, because you seem to be doing nothing but spouting conservative talking points at this point. if you need to know the type of person you are, sometimes one of the best things you can do is check around the room. Said, who's a conservative? People who identify with conservative values. There's that identity thing again. There's no such thing as transphobic, except there is. You could say a fear of trans people if you want to use the strictest definition that isn't really functional in most forms of society. You could also use the version of transphobic where it's bigotry against trans people. And are there trans people? Yes. Are you engaging in bigotry against trans people? Yes. Therefore, you are transphobic. To say there's no such thing as transphobic or homophobic is to say there's no such thing as a racist. All the same mechanisms are here. They're always here. It's just bigotry. Now, I did respond here to the sheep comment. I'm sure that you came up with that idea yourself, you free thinker, you. Because I've heard all this shit before. I've seen this a billion times. I've seen this on Facebook, on Twitter, in various YouTube videos. There's not a single original thought here. At all. Their response is,
I did. There's nothing wrong with being racist or transphobic. I would rather be racist than a pedophile.
I too would rather be racist than a pedophile. I think that it would be better to be one than the other, though they're both terribly bad and you shouldn't be either of them. If you have a choice between being one or the other, realistically, there's always the third choice of just not being either of them. You could just not be a pedophile and also not be a racist. You say there's nothing wrong with being transphobic, yet in your last statement you say that there's no such thing as transphobic. You are an enigma wrapped up in a contradiction. Which one is it? Do you think before you write? Oh, but the coup de grace is coming. Don't worry. It gets better. You see, my DMs are a terrible myriad landscape that won't even get you 2 basic lands. No, it's just a terrible minefield.
If you want to accept these child diddlers as human, don't be shocked.
No period. You forgot the ED. But, I mean, you forgot the ED at the end of Shock, but you didn't forget the ED in real life. Just throwing that out there. I figured maybe you needed to be reminded to take your blue pills today. But let's, I don't want to focus too much on my response here. I just decided that, I'll accept them as human while accepting your lack of education. I got past the point of caring about this person as an individual and just decided, nope, you're content. You moved from person I give a shit about into content category very quickly. It's amazing how fast and swiftly you managed that. But let's go ahead and talk for just a brief second about the idea presented here. As much as you don't want to admit it, as much as you don't want to think about it, people who do horrible things are still people. It doesn't matter what horrible thing they do, they're still people. And believe me, there's at least one person who I'm having a really hard time wrestling with my psyche about, whether or not I consider them a person. But at the end of the day, logically, they are still people, no matter how bad they are. The best thing to remember where that's concerned is that you too can slide down the rabbit hole of being a terrible person. All it takes is the right circumstances, pressure, and bad choices from yourself. Never thoroughly dehumanize somebody you don't like. It is always easy to slip into the facade of becoming them yourself. But the DMs don't end there. He gives me a lovely category of people he doesn't consider humans.
Like I say...
You mean like you say? I've never interacted with you before. I don't know what you usually say.
LGBTQ aren't humans. Are you white like me? You are. We need to save the white race from the N-words and communists. Gypsy Crusader and Brandon Martinez are right about the N-words being rapists and criminals. We need to prepare for a race war. It's our children or the N-words going to exterminate us.
I'm not conservative, but I'd rather be a racist than... You're already there, buddy. Like, is there a world Or you are not some type of piece of shit. I'm sorry. I just, look, I understand. You watch my content. I know you do, because you posted my own content to me, so I expect a response at some point here. I expect to get you in my DMs again, where you give me some variant of either defending your positions, which, again, you can defend with about the rigidity of your ED, or you can decide to come in and do this the other way around, where you, instead of defending your positions, decide that you come in and say, it was all a joke, dude. It was all a joke. I'm just trolling. Can I introduce everybody to a concept called Poe's Law? Poe's Law states that at a certain point of extremism, it is impossible to differentiate somebody who's a true believer in the extreme belief from somebody who is participating in satire. If you are doing this, haha, I trolled you, and you are pushing yourself so far into that extreme where it is impossible to identify you away from standard-ass bog talking points that I see in my comment section all the time, then I guess you can take a tiny victory. That the most important thing that happened to you in your life, randomly, was being featured by being made fun of by a late 20-year-old dude with a cat girl avatar on the internet in front of a looping video of Wind Waker. If this is the most important thing that happens in your life, then I am terribly sorry, but we're currently here, and this is a very low place to be. Haha, you trolled me. You did it. Meanwhile, you became content. Thank you very much for paying for my next meal. But what do you guys think? What should I do when I receive hateful and disparaging remarks and, you know, in some cases, just flat out harassment from people on the internet? Should I sit there and just ignore it, or should I decide that, hey, I'm going to take these things that are used to hurt me, and I'm going to instead use them to further my career? Should I ignore bullies, or should I use them as stepping stones? You decide. Let me know in the comments section below. I would love to know your thoughts down there, and your thoughts on the ideas, insofar as that's an insult to the idea of ideas that have been presented in this lovely little Facebook exchange. With that said, if you want to support the channel and what I do, there's plenty of ways to do so. There's Patreon. There are several affiliate links down below as well. But with that said, as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.